Tom Quee presents The Royle Ramble, an episode-by-episode celebration of the classic British sitcom, The Royle Family. To get in touch with the show, email us at theroyleramblepod@gmail.com. Hey everyone, it's Tom here. Welcome back to another edition of The Royle Ramble. This is our deep dive episode-by-episode Royle Family podcast. As ever, I am your host, Tom Quee. Today we are tackling the fourth episode of the show, that being Jim's birthday, the fourth episode of the first season. Just before we get to that, of course, you can follow the show wherever you are listening, on iTunes, on Spotify, wherever your RSS feed takes you. If you enjoy the show, I want to implore you at the top of the show, if you enjoy the show, please tell a friend about the show. Please leave us a review on iTunes as well. We have 9 5-star reviews now, but still, no one's put any comments down below. So, if you can pop a review down there, pop a rating, that's greatly appreciated. Help to push us up the algorithms. We're slowly getting more and more visibility, more and more downloads. We got an email as well, royleramblepod@gmail.com. Got 2 cool emails to read out before we get into our analysis today. You can also check us out on Twitter as well, at Royle Ramble Pod. And, go back through the archive as well. We're episode 4 now. We obviously tackled the first 3. That makes the most sense. And, we're going to be going to the end. We're going to do all 3 series, all the Christmas specials, all the specials afterwards as well. Queen of Sheba and beyond, comic relief, and then early doors, of course, as well. Who could forget early doors? So, as I said, 2 quick emails. I love getting emails from people. If you've got any feedback on the show, on the Royle Family, how did you start watching the show, anything related in any way to this masterpiece, I will happily read out. Our first one comes from Craig. Craig says, "Hey Tom, I've just gotten onto the Royle Ramble and happen to be a massive fan of the show, so I thought I'd get in touch. Lockdowns have brought us many unexpected surprises, but I certainly wasn't anticipated I'll be listening to an episode-by-episode podcast dedicated to the Royle Family, so cheers for that. I've always felt like the show doesn't get mentioned enough when people talk about the greatest British sitcoms. It deserves to be up there with Only Fools and Fawlty Towers in my opinion, but always seems to get forgotten about. I'd even argue that it's underrated. Some trivia that I'd love to see discussed on the podcast. Was there ever a scene in the entire series or specials that was shot outside the house? I think no. If that's the case, it's the only sitcom, or at least the first of its kind, to be shot like this. I was also going to suggest maybe it's even the first sitcom to be filmed without a laugh track, but I googled that and it turns out that was Hogan's Heroes. Maybe it was one of the first British shows at least. Take care, man." Craig, thank you so much for getting in touch. Craig is actually a listener to one of my other podcasts, Battle Rap Resume, where I talk about battle rap, so it was great for him to get back in touch. Now, Craig, the first thing you raised there about it being one of the greatest British sitcoms, of course I agree. I wouldn't be doing this show otherwise. And I do think it is underrated. I wouldn't say people don't know about it. I wouldn't say, it's not on the radar. I think if you just did a census of, anyone, they know of Jim Royle, My Arse, etc. They know about the show. They know it's all set in, a couple of rooms. But yeah, it doesn't have that kind of crossover appeal like Only Fools and Fawlty Towers, does it? Maybe it's the lack of a laugh track. Maybe it's because it's quite impenetrable. It's certainly an acquired taste. I think people who love the Royle Family absolutely obsess about it, quoted endlessly, adore it, like myself, really just think it's, one of the jewels in the crown of British culture. But some people kind of dismiss it. And I do wonder as well if part of the reason is because the youth aren't into it. I mean, who cares what kids think, right? But I'm just thinking of like younger people that I know. They love Fawlty Towers. I mean, my sister's quite a bit younger than me, and she loves Fawlty Towers and Only Fools, stuff like that. Not as interested in Royle Family. And I think it is the fact that it's kind of a moment in time for a certain sense. And what you were saying as well about the scenes, the specials. Craig, my dear friend, have you not seen all of the show? Because, there are a few specials afterwards, Queen of Sheba, etc., that do go outside the home. And the idea of it being the first sitcom without a laugh track, maybe so. Hogan's Heroes mentioned in the US, but perhaps so. I mean, the Royle Family is so trailblazing. I want to get onto this. We get into the later episodes, we get into the legacy of the show. But I quite simply, I think, no Royle Family, no Office, no Peep Show, no This Country. I think, it really was that important for kind of carving a new path for British comedy in my eyes. At least that's what I think. Get in touch with me, royleramblepod@gmail.com. Why isn't the Royle Family more fated? Let us know. And our second email, this is a very fun email to receive. It comes from a man called Jack Chesterman. Hey Tom, it's Jack Chesterman from uni. Hope it's going well. Now, Jack Chesterman, good friend of mine from uni, like someone that, I graduated in 2013. Uni's a great time, isn't it, where friends of friends become fast friends, So it was someone that I was on a course with, was a friend, a guy called Brendan was a friend of Jack's, and then I ended up meeting Jack, and me, Jack and Brendan were on the Bernardo Society at Liverpool Uni for a time. We did like rap battles for charity events and stuff like that, good times. So it was great for Jack to get in touch. Jack, thank you. I know you've listened to this, Jack, as well. And, what's up, man? So he says, it's Jack Chesterman from uni. Hope it's all going well. I thought I'd reach out to say I've listened to the first episode of the pod and I love it. The Royle Family is a fantastic comedy and it's great to get some more insight into the show, which you are definitely providing. Keep up the good work, Jack. Jack, thank you so much. Great to hear from you, mate. Hope to hear from you again on the correspondences there. And yeah, guys, just to reiterate, if you have any thoughts on the Royle Family, on the Royle Ramble, on anything that I've said, all the links are down below. It's the Royle Ramble pod at gmail.com. That's the Royle Ramble pod at gmail.com. But yeah, that's enough promoting. That's enough ego stroking. Let's get into the episode. This is episode 4, Jim's Birthday, written by Carolyn Ahern, Craig Cash and Henry Normal. It was directed by Mark Mylard and it originally debuted on the 5th of October, 1998. And today's episode is concerning a birthday, Jim's birthday. Good occasion to get the characters together, of course. The writers are again playing with interesting scenarios, butting up against the constricts of the form, because, the first 2 episodes are kind of similar in scope, aren't they? They're kind of like dinner episodes where people come round, and then the 3rd episode introduces Nana Sunday afternoon. It's kind of a meanings import behind it. And now with the 4th episode, it's Jim's birthday. Think of all the other sitcoms and comedies that have had this in general. Tim's birthday in The Office, or the fact that none of them wanted to turn 30 in Friends. Like it being Sunday afternoon, you get a sense of familiarity here. You get a sense that this is kind of how Jim's birthdays have always been. I mean, what birthday is it? It could be 60, but I imagine that would have been mentioned. When is the date of his birthday? None of this really matters in the grand scheme of things. Though in terms of his age, we do get a few clues later on when we hear about Jim and Barbara's history, so we can kind of work it out somewhat. So we open on birthday cards on the mantelpiece, including the classic golf card. Who hasn't received this card, or who hasn't seen their dad be given this card? My dad was a huge golfer, and he would always get the most generic golf cards and decry how meaningless they were. We see other anonymous birthday cards as well. In terms of the script here, it says, Scene 1, interior, day living room, Dad, Mam, Denise, Anthony, Dave, and Cheryl. I guess pointing to who's going to be in the episode, more than who's here at the moment. It says, Dad's birthday. There are 5 birthday cards up. Denise is lying on the sofa. Dad sits watching TV. Mam enters with a glass of water and 2 tablets. And as always, the writers know exactly how to hook us in with an opening line.
I've only got paracetamol. Oh, these should do the trick.
I asked him to come early. I have to go round the cans, breaking up his loft, finishing off there.
Who needs it? It's not quite clear at the immediate moment, and it's changed from the original script. The original script opens with Barbara passing Denise tablets, but I just like the kind of the little sliver of mystery that it gives us here. We pan across from Jim, who is sitting normal. It doesn't seem to be any of a different day for him on his birthday, and Denise, who looks rough on the sofa, lounged out. And Carolyn Ahern has such range. And we'll see in the next episode she's brilliant at acting drunk. And here she's great at acting hungover as well. She really seems aggrieved, heavy-headed, crumbly voiced as she explains her maladies.
How are you feeling now?
It's behind that eye, and it's behind that eye, and then it's behind there, and it's sort of coming behind there. It just won't let up.
Barbara, ever motherly, sees it as stemming from concerns with the wedding. Jim, however, sees the truth straight away.
I think it's all stress-related.
Funny how she gets stressed after she's had 17 hours of lager, isn't it?
You've taken on too much with this wedding, Denise.
She's got a bloody hangover.
It's stress.
It's stress. Even the way she says that, kind of lying. We know she's lying, but she's kind of embellishing it as much as she can in those rich, hungover tones. Anthony enters, wants Denise to move, sees the lies for what they are, and offers an alternative.
Look, why don't you get up and go to bed if you're ill?
It's freezing up there.
Why is she doing that voice?
Because I'm not well.
Barbara gets up from Anthony's seat, though I'm not sure anyone would ever call it Anthony's seat, but that's where he sits for most of the show, and sits on the sofa with Denise. She pulls Denise's feet up, puts her on her lap like a loving mother should. She's concerned, truly, and it's a little maddening that Denise is playing her exactly like a fiddle. Now literally laid out on her, Barbara tries to diagnose Denise.
You never know with headaches what they can turn into.
A bloody drama.
Well, I think it's a combination of stress and something else.
Look out, Dr. Quinn, medicine woman.
Reference there to Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, which is of course an American Western drama series created and executive produced by Beth Sullivan and starring Jane Seymour, who plays Dr. Michaela Quinn, a physician who leaves Boston in search of adventure in the old American West and settles in Colorado Springs, Colorado. It ran for 6 seasons, from 93 to 98. 149 episodes were produced, plus 2 TV movies. Didn't know much about this show. Apparently it was best known for its large supporting cast and high-concept storytelling. It often used its semi-historical setting as a vehicle to address issues of gender and race within the community. For example, apparently it's an episode where Walt Whitman, who is one of my favourite poets, comes to town and they talk about homophobia in that episode. Jim wants to change the channel. Denise doesn't want him to. She's watching it despite hurting. Though again, Jim bringing it straight back to himself, and he feels like he should be the one in agony.
It's me who should have a headache over the wedding in my bloody pocket. Peg-leg Pete won't have a headache, I can tell you that for now.
Around this time, as Anthony sits down, we can appreciate that he's got a black eye. Again, this will be explained later on. We just get a little taste of it from his angle, and the makeup's excellent as well. It looks like quite a bloody shiner there. I've never actually got a black eye in my entire life. Maybe that speaks to my cowardly nature, I don't know. But yeah, Anthony wears it well, if you know what I mean. Barbara, and we see this so much. We saw this on episode 2, where Barbara was sad, or Barbara was despondent, or Barbara didn't have anything to say, and she just smiles. And she just perks herself up, and this happens here. She's kind of looking off into the distance, and she asks Jim to pass the card that her mum got. She looks forward to the mantle. She smiles.
Somebody's compost heap stinks.
Oh, Jim. Show us that card my mum sent you.
It's there on the mantelpiece.
Pass it us.
Bloody hell. How long she known me? 25 years. How many times did she see me play bloody golf?
Well, it's the sentiment, isn't it? Happy birthday, Jim. Love, Norma.
Well, she didn't go overboard on the sentiment there, did she?
I love that he talks about the sentiment. And Norma literally couldn't have said less other than just Jim kiss or something like that. There wasn't even a kiss in it, I don't think.
I think Barbara Cartland's job's safe for a bit.
Dame Barbara Cartland, was an English novelist who wrote romance novels, one of the best-selling authors in the 20th century, is one of the most prolific and commercially successful. Her 723 novels were translated into 38 languages, and she continues to be referenced in the Guinness World Record for the most novels published in a single year in 1977. And she has an estimated 1 billion books sold, which is just absolutely insane. Doesn't really sound like my sort of thing, but wow, what a stunning achievement, what impact. BBC 4 apparently aired a biopic drama in 2008 called In Love with Barbara, starring Anne Reid as Barbara Cartland and David Warner as Lord Mountbatten. I'll have to watch that just because I love Anne Reid. I mean, Dinner Ladies obviously, but if anyone's seen Last Tango in Halifax, she is an oddly compelling bigger in that show, I'll give her that, and that is a terrific programme as well. Sally Wainwright is a singular talent. I mean, Happy Valley as well, the one she did on the Brontes, just wow. And there's no sentiment in the card, and there's no heart in the gift either, because it's just like that classic birthday game, pass the parcel.
Did you put a £5 in it?
Yeah. The same bloody £5 she'll be getting back off me next month when it's her birthday. It's a bloody swear this birthday lark.
Denise herself sparks up a little and asks Jim about his present, and he does seem genuinely happy here. It's nice that she asks. She kind of lies reclined and looks over to him. They have a nice dad-daughter moment here.
Hey, Dad, did you like them socks?
Ah, they were spot on, kid.
Didn't know whether to get you them or a BMW.
No, I think you done right.
The bell rings. It's Dave. Anthony is asked to get it. We again get another look at his black eye here. He tells Denise asks him to do it, and he tells Denise to kiss his ass, which is a good retort. Denise puts on her affected, sick bed voice, asks Jim, who says the same when she asks, and then Anthony is forced to get up with a bit of venom.
Anthony, get the door.
I'm sick of her. The sooner she goes, the better.
Take the notice, love. You're always welcome back here if it doesn't work out.
If it doesn't work out, wow, that hanging over. Is Barbara having doubts? Is Barbara just being, overly maternal? And of course, will take Denise at any moment. She will help her out like any mom would. It's an interesting comment there, but I think it plays more to just Barbara's caring side rather than any suspicion she might have of the fragility of this upcoming union. Dave comes in, kisses Denise on the cheek, and is immediately asked about his dinner, of course.
You all right, love?
Yeah.
Have you had your tea, Dave? What did you have?
Liver and onions.
Can't be doing with liver.
Liver and onions. What is it about liver and onions that people hate? Because I'm not really into liver and onions. Like, I am an omnivore. I will eat pretty much any food. I mean, to quote Twiggy, I'll eat any old shite me. But one of the things I'm particular about, really, I don't really like liver. There's something quite fleshy about it. But you know what it is about liver and onions that I was thinking about? And this is very much of my era. Like, as I said, I was born in the early 90s. I was raised on Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon and all those sort of great American cartoons. Doug, if anyone's familiar with Doug, great coming-of-age high school cartoon from the early 90s. And there is a whole episode where he is thinking about eating liver and onions. He's been asked around to a girl's house, and he has to get, hypnotised, I think, to deal with the idea of it. And I think that just kind of indoctrinated me into disliking it before I'd even tried it. But liver and onions, of course, is a dish with slices of liver, usually pork beef or in the United Kingdom lamb, and bulb onions. The onion is flavoured as an accompaniment to the liver, as the sharp flavour of the onion cuts the somewhat metallic flavour of the liver, which can be off-putting to some eaters. Dave is barely in for 30 seconds, however, and he punctures the whole charade of Denise.
What's up with you, face ache?
I've got a really bad migraine.
She's doing that voice again.
I'm not surprised you're bad. You're paralytic last night.
Yeah, I told you.
You're like that. Hey, you had a right gob on you and all. You're not supposed to give the landlord grief when you get a lock-in.
Good shot of Jim, open mouth listening as this is being revealed as well. And such an insightful line there from Dave. You're not supposed to give the landlord grief when you get a lock-in. I mean, Christ, that's kind of cringe, actually. And you get this vibe. Denise doesn't sound like a very fun drunk. She doesn't sound too jolly. Like, at the christening and stuff like that, she's a bit more relaxed or whatever. But, you can imagine all of her negative tendencies are kind of turned up to 11 there, as with a lot of people, unfortunately.
Oh, Denise, you've had me running round like a blue-ass fly. You were exactly the same last week.
And Barbara saying you were exactly the same last week. So Barbara's partly at fault here for being so gullible, but, I get it. Those parental instincts outweigh any logic, I'm sure. Barbara also references blue-ass fly, which is, of course, a reference to a blue bottle fly. The idea is for someone to be engaged in kind of constant frantic activity or movement. I was trying to know the origin of this, and apparently it originated in the British Armed Forces. It's first recorded in Master Mariner in 1936 in London, which is the reminiscences of Claude Lionel Cumberledge, who was an officer in the Royal Navy, and he basically talks about, I believe it's some sort of cat on the ship, Manny, our pet murderer, who was here, there and everywhere, working like a Trojan and dancing about like a blue-arsed fly in a strange roundhouse. It's all about Dave in this sequence. I heard about liver and onion, he talks about the lock-in and Denise is drinking. And then he turns his attention to Anthony, spots the black eye and asks him. When we see it properly, we notice he is pretty bruised and he's just staying stum at the moment. And Dave jokes on him like an older brother.
So where'd you get the shiner, Ant?
He's been fighting.
Well, he came second then, didn't he? Who was it?
He won't tell.
Probably a girl.
It was a gang, actually.
What, the Spice Girls?
Big fan of Dave's green shirt in this, by the way. Definitely go back and check that out if you're listening along. And Barbara hasn't any time for violence. She just wants us all to get along. And Denise seems to agree, but then, of course, contradicts herself when Dave reveals a little bit more of her probably drunken escapades.
I don't know why people fight.
Yeah, it's always men.
What about that time you smacked Beverly Macker?
Eh? Well, she was asking for it.
She was asking for it as well. More history here. It's not just a jealousy over Dave. Did she hit Beverly before Dave? Because you imagine they've kind of been around the same world, been around the same pubs and stuff like that. Similar ages. Although Denise is said to be 26 and Beverly, I think, is said to be 18. So there's quite a difference in age, actually, 8 years. So it's kind of, when you think about it that way, it's kind of an adult mixing with a teenager to a certain extent. But I love the fact that she was asking for it as well, which maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. I don't think Denise would have needed a reason, Throughout this all as well, there's a great alignment on the screen. I've said this before, the layering, especially when characters are on the sofa. So we have Dave at the forefront at the left, Denise in the middle, and Barbara kind of watching alongside. I love these triptychs, that the show does, the way it composes the image, stratifies the screen. Barbara gets out talk of punch-ups to get the cake ready.
Anyway, no more talk of fighting. I'm going to bring in Dad's cake, so dim the lights, turn the telly off.
Hey, there's no need for that.
Come on, Denise, come and help me.
Love that there's no need for that. Of course there isn't in Jim's eyes. Why sully the occasion by taking TV away from it? Jim turns to Dave and says he can't do all his palaver. The TV, of course, isn't off, but the room does dim and everyone crowds around. A small Victoria sponge and a candle sticking out the top, and everyone begins to sing.
I don't know who put the idea into your head. What's the idea? Do you think? If you think it, I'm not. I said if.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jim. Happy birthday to you.
Woo! Jolly good bell.
Hang on, Pap.
Happy Birthday to You, also known as Happy Birthday, is of course the song traditionally sung to celebrate a person's birthday. According to the 98 Guinness World Records, it's the most recognisable song in the English language, followed by For He's a Jolly Good Fellow. The song's bass lyrics have been translated into at least 18 languages. The melody of Happy Birthday to You comes from the song Good Morning to All, which has traditionally been attributed to American sisters Patty and Mildred J. Hill in 1893, although the claim that the sisters composed the tune is disputed. The song is in the public domain in the US and the EU. Warner Chappell Music has previously claimed copyright on the song in the US and collected license fees for its use. In 2015, the copyright claim was declared invalid and Warner Chappell agreed to pay back $40 million in licensing fees. Jim is a very, Ebenezer type mood here, something that he accused Dave's dad of being in the last episode in the kitchen to Anthony. Doesn't want to blow the candle out as he's still got 5 minutes of that. Save the lecky. Lecky as well, what a term. Of course, all in all, it's only Victoria Sponge.
Well, you have to pay for proper birthday cake.
Oh, Bob, don't take all the mystique. Have me bloody birthday cake.
Victoria Sponge as well, also known as Victoria Sandwich Cake, named after Queen Victoria, who was known to enjoy the small cakes for afternoon tea. The version that Queen Victoria ate would have been filled with jam alone, but modern versions often include cream. And Jim's another year older, and, maybe things are slowly changing here. Barbara actually asked Denise to nip out and get the pomaine, which, interestingly, pomaine doesn't even exist anymore. I first heard about it through this show, as I'm sure many people did. And, it was a brand of cider produced by Bulmers in the UK. It was first marketed in 1906 under the name Cider Deluxe. In 1916, it was changed to pomaine. It was originally produced by the Method Champoneuse, butchering that, using only the juice from the first pressing. Bulmers marketed pomaine as champagne cider until Bollinger took it to court over the use of champagne in 1974. Bulmers won the case but stopped their production methods and in 1975 changed to making pomaine by bulk fermentation in a 6,000-gallon tank. Funnily enough, because this information I got from pomaine is from Wikipedia, it mentions in the Wikipedia article the drink was referenced in the BBC sitcom The Royal Family along with the Snowball. Pomaine, though, was discontinued at some point in 2013, at which point Bulmers stated it was not planning to reintroduce the drink. So, R.I.P. to pomaine. Denise, as you say, was asked. Denise obviously fights back, doesn't just go willingly.
Get my ciggies while you're out there, love.
Hey, shove a brush up my arse and sweep the floor.
Where does she get it from?
Where does she get it from? Jim asks. Jim asking for his ciggies, again being mentioned. Again, we never see him smoke. Curious. Jim is popping a creamy finger into his mouth, is past the pomaine, he's getting excited as well. Like, Jim certainly finds joy in the smaller things, doesn't he? Like, he is a miser, but stuff like Antiques Roadshow or, a chocolate bar or fish and chips, like we all do. We're all human, aren't we? Barbara goes to the cabinet, the bureau, grabs the glasses from there. Like, did anyone else's nans have these sort of things? Like, definitely my nan in Hemel Hempstead had one of those things, one of these kind of big cases where you'd pull the front forward. And there would always be slightly dirty glasses in there.
Need some glasses.
Oh, yeah, there we go. There we go, the old pomaine.
Oh, hey, they're a bit dusty, aren't they? Never mind. Pomaine will wash it clean.
Now, this is a really interesting moment here, because when she goes over, this is our first time at this angle in the living room, and we can see lots of stuff clearer. Above the china cabinet, the bureau, for example, there's a moody painting of a seafront at sunrise, which looks like a Turner or a James Whistler. Sort of darkened boats on the tide. There's an urn of sorts. There's a picture of Denise as well, dolled up, beaming at the camera. Maybe it's from one of her birthdays. There's Anthony in his school blazer, which is a really nice touch. I bet that's obviously just a legit Ralph Little photo there. The glasses inside the cabinet too, not just the ones she grabs, but there's also some real dusty, small small blue pots as well. A few black and white family photos above as well, perhaps of Jim's dad or Barbara's Speakman clan. It's impossible to tell really, but the inference is all you need rather than the veracity, right? There's a few more photos too. There's that garish Blackpool Tower strip on the wall, which beside the fairly formal painting print above, it slightly jars. Jim gets proceedings going with his trademark laugh.
And jolly old bifties!
And then straight away, as if on cue, in comes Mary. We get to see the dusty glasses as well being poured, and they are slightly murky for sure. Mary gives Jim some cigarettes, gift-wrapped. She kisses him on the cheek, and Jim hints towards Mary's wild side jokingly, and, she kids back.
Here's a mug for your loving. It's awful, I haven't got enough glasses. Sure, it's only me.
She'd sup it out of a sweaty sock, wouldn't you, Mary?
You know me too well, don't you, Jim?
Dave calls for a speech, and Jim obliges. This is a great moment, and plays to his magnetism, both Jim's and, of course, Ricky's.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone here for attending today to this wonderful auspicious occasion, and a special thanks to my wife Barbara for going through the time and the trouble to bring the cake home from the bakery. I would also like to thank my little girl, my Denise, for forgetting all about her bloody hangover.
No.
I'd like to thank Denise for forgetting her hangover, great. And the word auspicious too. Eclectic vocab choice from Jim, and Dave widens his eyes at that as well. Denise is smoking a cigarette as Jim is doing the speech. It kind of blows across him as well. Denise does get a defensive though, and Mary immediately checks up on her.
Oh, them tablets have worked. It was a migraine.
Have you got a migraine?
Yeah.
I mean, however caring, pomaine, cake in hand, Mary's still asking after Denise, and Denise is still lying about the fact that she's got a migraine. And just before the quote-unquote icing on the cake, as Jim calls him, old Joe comes in, Jim gets a final dig into Anthony.
I'd also like to thank my son Anthony in advance for getting up off his big fat ass and washing pants.
Joe, unsurprisingly, comes in a little unaware, a little aloof. Of course, he doesn't know it's Jim's birthday, and he has to be prompted by Mary to give a very underwhelming happy birthday.
Hey, happy birthday, Jim.
Ta, Joe. Yeah, you've just missed a fabulous bloody speech.
Oh, have I?
Special introductory offers on certain lines and a complimentary thick kidney pie.
Now, underneath this, and we can hear his voice because it cuts through like a bloody foghorn, is old Fred Elliott, of course played by John Saverdon, I believe he's called. I mean, there's not many soap actors in the majority of this country that anyone could name just by hearing a few words, but old Fred is certainly one of them. Very memorable, played with a grand cheekiness. I actually went down a bit of a Fred Elliott rabbit hole doing the notes for this episode and just watching some of his funniest moments, and he was a great character on the show. I mean, like I say, not a soap guy, but as a kid I would watch Cora and EastEnders and a little bit of Emmerdale with my mum and dad and stuff like that, and I remember, who could forget Fred? I say Ashley, all that sort of stuff. The Guardian called Fred Elliott the second best Corrie character ever, and has been described as, quote, the big bold bastard who said everything twice, and boomingly started out as a comic gargoyle and became ever sweeter. Became ever sweeter. And yet John Savern's performance was terrific, and I like how it's not just now, it's like throughout the next 5-10 minutes, you can just hear Fred Elliott harping on at various moments. Jim tries to excite Joe about the situation, but, obviously doesn't get much back. There's no cake, so Joe's grabbed a Kit Kat. I mean, last Sunday, which probably was only a few days before this, he got cake, to be fair, so he can't really complain. Barbara also leaves to get him a lager. Jim mentions as a joke Mary supping on pomaine to Joe, but he doesn't even smile. He doesn't even acknowledge it. It's actually kind of depressing, really. Kit Kats, one of those rare chocolate bars that seem to exist globally in various forms. From what I've done some research here, they're big in America, they're big in Japan as well. I'm from that era, from that cloth, when I remember the traditional wrapping of a Kit Kat. I don't know if you guys remember that, in silver foil with the outer paper band. But in 2001, this was changed to flow wrap plastic, and it's just not the same in my eyes. But yeah, this is Royle Ramble, so you know what I like to do if I ever find any sweets? I like to talk about the variations. So Kit Kat Orange came out in the UK in 96, Ireland in 98. Kit Kat Dark, Kit Kat Mint, Kit Kat White. I'm saying Kit Kat a lot here. Kit Kat Cookies and Cream. Apparently there's loads of promotional materials as well that exist. In Japan, Kit Kats are packaged with CD singles. Look, if you want to get into a little bit of an intercontinental culinary wormhole there, just Google Kit Kat Japan and you're in for a treat. And Jim, to be fair to him, as much as they denigrate Joe, fairly as well, he's bloody hard work. And I'm sure he's came around to loads of these birthdays, and I'm sure he's been around for Sunday dinner, and it just kind of, the rules are kind of a rambunctious bunch, don't they? They like to play around, they like to fuck about with each other a little bit, they like to mock each other and have a bit of a laugh. And Joe's just this cardigan speed bump over there, just cutting off any mirthful momentum.
It's your birthday soon, isn't it, Joe?
Oh.
Are you doing anything special? Oh, well, something to look forward to, isn't it?
So Jim asks about Joe. I mean, you do always kind of remember when people's birthdays are slightly near yours, but of course Joe does exactly what we expect him to do here. He smiles a little bit at the mention of his birthday, but it's barely a hint there. Mary, she made sure Denise was okay with the migraine, because I bet Mary sees Anthony and Denise, not as a kids per se, but, they're very close, they're neighbours, etc. They've known each other forever. We hear later in Anthony's birthday about him doing the birdie song or something like that, and her giving him money, which is a really cute little memory. Looking forward to getting to that episode as well. Yeah, she notices something about Anthony's face in a very motherly way, asks him to turn to her.
Anthony, look at me. Have you got a black eye?
He's been fighting, Mary.
Where'd you get that?
In the precinct.
Oh, isn't that terrible?
So we hear about the precinct there, the mythic precinct, the precinct where Nana fell, the precinct where I'm pretty sure the bakery is. Another location we'll never see, but we can all imagine in our own minds. We all know our own local precincts, The catalogue order that we heard about in the first episode has arrived, Mary confirms, and Cheryl says it doesn't fit her.
She got it this morning.
Oh.
Cheryl's doesn't fit her. She's very upset. Don't say anything. She thinks the sizes are wrong. She says they're American sizes.
Love the way Mary says Cheryl as well, rather than Cheryl. Like, it's just this kind of subtle linguistic thing, but really works, American sizes, which surely would mean they were bigger, but a classic way out. And as this is going on, we can of course hear Fred Elliott in the background yammering on in that way that he does. Sad though for Cheryl, and we will meet her later on in the episode, and they do explore the idea of the jacket sizes a little more. Barbara then asks about the diet, of course, and the way she reacts to the revelation of the fish supper is brilliant. Like, it's delivered so tragically. Mary stares down at her feet as if in mourning.
How's her diet going?
She was doing great all day yesterday. And then she had a fish supper.
We will see Cheryl's relationship with fish suppers in season 3's best episode in my eyes, which is where Nana returns from Elsie's funeral. Also the best ending of the episode as well, if you know what I'm talking about. Oh my god, if I could just see the next 5 seconds, 10 seconds, but they just end it so perfectly. The mood goes down here for a bit. There's lots of quietness afterwards. Jim scowls at Barbara as she asks over Joe, knowing exactly what's going to come out.
How's your Kit Kat, Joe?
Nice.
How about your lager?
Yes, nice.
Will you be celebrating in the feathers tonight?
Oh, aye,
Be non-stop, kid. You going for the jar, Joe?
How many been?
All night.
Yeah.
Look, I've said the word Kafkaesque before, and I want to repeat it, because the Royle family loves to explore these kind of dead ends of logic, really. Like why does Joe ask what time will you be in if he's never going to be in? It's kind of a closed loop situation, but I love it, and it underscores everything, and Jim's kind of exasperation at his answer. Jim, again, asking about his birthday, saying will you stop in for a jar, just kind of opening his arms to him, like being friendly, even though I'm sure in the feathers he's probably even worse, he's probably even quieter, if that's possible, but still good on Jim on his birthday. He's feeling charitable, I guess. Mary awkwardly shares a glance with Barbara too when he says no, a side eye, kind of acknowledging his ways. They all know who he is, of course. They're all familiar with Joe's ways. Barbara realises it's photo time and goes to get her camera. As she announces this, Mary beams behind her. Barbara ushers everyone together. Denise goes to the bureau for some lippy, which she's told she doesn't need. She goes from a slightly different angle as well, so we get to see kind of the wall that's kind of, that separates, well, the kind of the bit of the wall, the arch that separates the dining room from the living section. And we see another painting on the wall, which is in a similar style to the one that's above the china cabinet, another kind of moody art piece. It's an old school camera with a film inside. Remember those? Pre-digital. I remember those as well, the disposable ones, all the ones you get film for as well. The whole family stand together.
Right. But Anthony, stand sideways. I don't want to get that bruise in. No. Anthony, Smile.
Anthony classically, of course, puts his fingers up behind Denise. You can still hear Fred Elliott barking. Barbara takes a photo, but it didn't flash. We can kind of hear that squealing sound of the camera. The flash then shows, and we get a photo. Mary maintaining her posture. Joe is, of course, there as well, with his bright yellow can in his hand. We hear about a new character here as well.
Do you know, I don't think these are going to come out. They didn't come out last time.
Hey, what's on the front of that film, Mum?
It's Pauline's baby's christening.
Bloody hell, he's having his 21st birthday next week. What's the sell-by date on the film?
Oh, Jimmy isn't even one yet.
Pauline and her baby. Wouldn't you love to have these photos, by the way? Like, just as prints or something, just seeing all these characters together in this situation. Like, I just love it. Like, I wonder if they even got these developed, or was that a prop camera, or, you know, maybe I'm thinking a little bit too much into it here. Well, I'm doing a podcast about the royal family. I definitely am, and I think I have license to. I love to see some of Pauline's baby's christening photos as well, and just see those guys in a slightly different world. Mary offers to take one of just the family. Joe's pushed out of the way by Barbara, and she then steps into it. Mary can't turn the camera on. Denise laughs.
Let me take one of just the family.
Jim, still sat down, infuses her to look at the numbers on the back. Is it a 24 or a 36? Mary, though, still sees the positive in all situations, as she's wont to do.
It's a very nice camera, Barbara.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we got this from Argus. We got it for, What did we get this for, Jim?
Taking bloody photographs.
Oh, ignore him.
Ask him what we got the camera for as well, because you would buy cameras for occasions back then. You know, this was before everyone had a megapixel in their pocket. Argos is mentioned, of course, Argos Limited, which trades as Argos, as a catalogue retailer operating in the UK and Ireland, acquired by Sainsbury's in 2016. It was established in 1972 and is named after the Greek city of Argos, interestingly. It trades both through physical shops and online, with 883 retail shops and 29 million yearly shop customers. Mary is off back, as is a Ruth Rendell on, and Joe soon follows after. Ruth Rendell, of course, was an English author of thrillers and psychological murder mysteries. She's best known for creating Chief Inspector Wexford, which was successfully televised, starring George Baker under the title The Ruth Rendell Mysteries, with 48 episodes from 1987 to 2000, so Mary was catching a later episode here. Jim spends most of his time trying to avoid work, but, you know, he'll still ask about it.
How's the job going, Dave?
Oh, I had a job in Blakely this morning. 4 flights of stairs for some shitty old wardrobe and a chest of drawers.
Yeah, but that's what you're getting paid for, isn't it?
Yeah, but you want a bit of job satisfaction, don't you?
Blakely. Another interesting little suburban area of Manchester nearby. Talked about Middleton before as well. Blakely, historically in Lancashire. It's approximately 4.5 miles north of Manchester city centre on the River Irk. 2 of Heaton Park entrances are accessible through Blakely on Middleton Road, interestingly, though the park's official entrance is in the city of Manchester. I worked in Manchester and lived in Manchester for a year, quite a few years ago, and I actually briefly worked in the Heaton Park Sainsbury's, so I'm familiar with that area. Great park. Notable people from Blakely include Roger Byrne, who was captain of Man United and one of the 8 players who died in the Munich air disaster in February 1958. Rest in peace. Vinnie Riley, too, of the Durruti column. Very cool. Denise, however, has no sympathy with the struggles or any of the riches that it can reap.
Did you get a tip?
Well, she gave us her bathroom cabinet. I had to unscrew it off the wall, like.
Hey, we don't want any shitey second-hand stuff. I'm having everything new from IKEA, Dave.
In your dreams, I can't afford them sort of prices.
She wants everything from IKEA. Of course, IKEA is a Swedish multinational conglomerate that designs and sells ready-to-assemble furniture, appliances, home accessories, amongst other useful goods. Founded in Sweden in 1943 by 17-year-old Ingvar Kampmann, IKEA has been the world's largest furniture retailer since 2008. Interesting, I didn't know this. The brand is named after an acronym that consists of the founder's initials. So it's IK, and those of E, the family farm, and the nearby village of A. But that IKEA. As of June 2019, there are 433 IKEA stores operating in 52 countries. Now, there's a little bit of class exploration here as well from Dave.
I bet you get loads of bloody tips.
I get the odd £5. It's the rich ones that are the tight ones, though, you know. It's the poor old dears who haven't got 2 halfpennies to rub together that want to drop you a couple of quid.
Why don't you take it?
Dead right.
As well as him doing something that we've touched upon before that all the rules do as well. Advice that isn't really advice, that seems more useful on the face of it than it is, but still has its applications.
Hey, I'll give you a tip, Jim. Always have a big top pocket, so whenever your hands are full carrying something, you can drop it in there to tip.
Hey.
Yeah, you got to be on the ball in this game.
Poor Dave as well. I mean, this job sounds depressing and difficult. Having Denise just moaning at you after each day must not make it any easier. Cheryl enters, wishes Jim happy birthday, relays that Mary's gone giddy as a kipper from whatever they've given her. Cheryl says she loves pomaine. Unfortunately, it's all gone. There is a can of lager that's going begging, but of course, she mustn't.
Oh no, thanks, Barbara, I'm dieting. My mum's sponsoring me.
How much do you know?
Tough from Jim here. It's his birthday. Maybe the pomaine's gone to his head, and he'd be, like this sober, of course. He's known Cheryl a long time. But yeah, quite a nasty thing to say. Very funny, though, of course. Denise has been given the jacket, I should say, as well, by Cheryl. She's rocking it. She loves it. It does fit her. She looks great in it. I mean, Karen Ahern just kind of had this essence, didn't she? Her whole aesthetic. I think she looks really, really good in these clothes. Shame for Cheryl as well, to see it suiting someone so well, and her own experience with the same type of garment being such a disappointment.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Mine didn't fit me. The sizes are all to cock.
Well, that's weird. This is a 12 and it fits me.
The 12s are alright, it's the 14s. I think I must have got a bad batch or something.
As this is happening as well, as Cheryl is talking, Jim makes another offensive gesture of kind of like a big tummy, basically, a kind of one that he's sketching above him. He's kind of laughing to himself here. It's genuine leather, the jacket is. Denise likes it. Barbara smells it to make sure. Dave asks how much it was, and Cheryl just says the price exactly.
40 weeks, £5.15.
Don't be telling him, Cheryl. It's my business.
So Denise flat out doesn't work, which is ridiculous, which we've known this, but she didn't even say to Dave, can you get me this? Can we work out some sort of payment plan? She just got it and just assumed that Dave would pay it. And we saw this with the, the buckled shoes before on the other episode, didn't we, with Barbara? She just kind of pawns them off onto other people. Anthony doesn't work either, of course, but, he's young enough. Barbara tries it on. Barbara loves the jacket. Anthony tries to be nice here to Denise about it, but then gets really angry.
It's alright, that jacket, Denise.
Hey, what you have to be nice to me?
Shove it up your arse, then.
Hey, cut it out. It's your dad's birthday. We don't want arses everywhere.
Correct.
To be honest, Denise wasn't being too harsh here, but, he just couldn't help himself. It's your dad's birthday, Barbara scolds. We don't want arses everywhere. Denise then takes up the paper, the Mirror, of course. I mean, you wouldn't expect to see the Telegraph here or anything like that. And this is the old days when newspapers still had a bit of money, so you see a Mirror TV Plus supplement come out, and Denise offers up her dad's horoscope, and Jim listens as he's playing with himself. A horoscope, by the way, is an astrological chart or diagram representing the position of the sun, moon, planets, astrological aspects, and sensitive angles at the time of an event, such as the moment of a person's birth. The word horoscope is derived from the Greek words aura and skopos, meaning time and observer. As Denise reads Pisces, Cheryl awkwardly listens. On the paper, I'm always, whenever they're holding a newspaper, I'm always trying to work out what's on the front cover to try and date it. They are real papers, I gather. Obviously, like they're real TV shows and everything else, real brands. Something on the back says Spencergate, but it's not clear. The kind of story says a mother's blind love for her son. So if anyone can shed any light on Spencergate, I did do a bit of Googling around. Get in touch with me, rawramblepod@gmail.com. All horoscopes are inaccurate, but Cheryl's truly is wide of the mark, and the silence that greets it helps that truth land.
What you again, Cheryl?
Pisces.
Oh. Sexy and desirable, that's you throughout today. Whether you realise it or not, you radiate an aura which can only be described as delectable.
Spot on again.
Sure about that?
Dad?
Oh, Cheryl knows I'm only joking. I've never seen such an aura of delectability.
This again is such a real thing, like reading out people's horoscopes just when you're hanging out, knowing that it's bullshit, but still kind of taking some delight or whimsy in it. And Denise uses this opportunity, uses these sun and stars to prove her own point. Barbara, of course, a bit of a dolt here, completely misunderstanding the reading and the horoscope. I mean, see multiple examples already in the show, like the family fortunes, that was the colour of a card, etc.
What's mine?
Yours. This week, as ever, you are ruled by Uranus. Don't be mean with money. If someone you love gets a new leather jacket, don't moan about the price.
Oh, is that Russell Grant? He's very good, isn't he?
Yeah, he's as camp as Christmas in.
Russell Grant, very famous over here in terms of the astrology circuit, media personality as well. Written several books on astrology, does a lot of newspaper horoscopes. Appeared on Strictly in 2011 and Celebrity MasterChef in 2014.
Well, he's one to be talking about Uranus, isn't he?
We get now into more of the wider kind of pop culture world around the household. Dave revealing a little rumour that he's heard that was circulating at the time, that Richard Gere was said to be gay. I love Jim's comment about the direct line that they've got in the feathers to Hollywood, and that's where they get all their knowledge.
Richard Gere's gay.
Way.
I'm telling you, it's common knowledge that down the feathers.
Oh, aye, that's the Mecca of Wales showbiz. They've got a direct line there to Hollywood. It's in the bar.
Well, he's married to Cindy Crawford.
No, they split up over Easter.
Oh, what did they split up over?
Because he's fruity.
And Dave, again, I spoke about this, that Dave, like Homer Simpson, just gets slowly more stupid as the series progressed. And here, he's gossiping about celebrities, he's being very playful in his choice of words and the way he interprets things. He's got a lot of Jim about him. The way he says fruity as well, love that. And, Barbara, of course, kind of just misses the point, thinks that Richard Gere's with Russell Grant. Of course, that Richard Gere rumour as well about the hamster up the arse. I mean, my arse, the kind of rectal obsession makes complete sense here. That apparently was a real story that somehow was spreaded by an anonymous prankster. I checked this on Snopes not long after Pretty Woman came out, which obviously led to a tremendous increase in Gere's popularity. It flooded fax machines in Hollywood with like a phony press release, supposedly issued by the Association for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, claiming that Gere had abused a gerbil. But supposedly someone from the National Enquirer, of all places, tried to track down the gerbil story, and there were no facts to be had. Cheryl's not listening throughout all this, but you see how comfortable she is. She's perched, but, she's grew up with this family as well. She's not going to chime in on the Crawford-Gere gossip, perhaps. Maybe a little bit of a Russell Grant opinion, but she's just there. Barbara, though, is moralistic, and she spouts something, that really makes you like her at the end.
Well, I don't care what anybody is. I don't care whether they're gay, straight or Australian. It's what they're like as a person that matters.
Aye, Barb, steady on there, will you? This is not Live Aid, it's just my bloody birthday.
Oh, you're a sarcastic bugger, you are, Jim.
Live Aid, of course you know what Live Aid is, but just in case you don't, it's a Royle Ramble after all. Benefit concert held on Saturday the 13th of July 1985, as well as an ongoing music-based fundraising initiative. The original event was organised by Bob Geldof and Midge Ure to raise funds for the Ethiopian famine. It was billed as the Global Jukebox. The event was held simultaneously at Wembley Stadium in London, UK, attended by about 72,000 people, and JFK Stadium in Philadelphia, attended by about 89,000 people. I recently watched a documentary on Live Aid, and the performances are pretty fantastic, actually. Madonna really struck out to me as being great. On the same day, there were lots of concerts inspired by the initiative held in other countries, such as the Soviet Union, Canada, Japan, Yugoslavia, Austria, Australia, West Germany. It was one of the largest scale satellite link-ups and television broadcasts of all time. An estimated audience of 1.9 billion across 150 nations watched it live, nearly 40% of the world's population time. I was thinking this. I guess Denise would have watched it. She doesn't particularly seem to be interested in music. I guess Dave certainly would have watched it. They're of that age. They would have been quite young at the time. This would have been 12 years prior to this, so they would have been children themselves. Anthony would be like a small baby in arms there. But I can imagine Barbara would have been slightly bemused, and Jim would have not been interested. Coronation Street plays in the background. Deirdre's there. That we actually cut to as well. We've had Fred and Deirdre, a lot of classic Cora characters going on here. Very weird to think that Mary, Doreen Keogh, was the original barmaid that we discussed previously in the show. So again, there's lots of kind of meta-reality bending going on in Royle Family, as it is wont. There's a pause. Barbara sees an opening to be a mother, and she offers everyone polos.
Oh, anybody want a polo?
Yeah, I'll have one.
He gives one of them, Mum. I love polos, me.
Dave?
No tar, Barbara.
Oh. Jim, do you want a birthday polo?
Aye, give us two to make up for the old.
Polos, of course, brand of breath mint, whose defining feature is the hole in the middle, first manufactured in the UK in 1948 by employee John Bargewell at the Rowntree's factory in York, and a range of flavours followed. The name derives from polar, representing the cool, fresh taste of the mint. Jim's given a birthday polo, two to make up for the hole, of course, classic line. And the way Anthony says, I love polos, like the same way he says, I love squirty cream, again, that kid aspect, just realistic as well. Something would say, and Barbara makes sure that everyone has one. Cheryl has one to be sociable. There's no calories in a polo. She's assured she sucks them all day at work. The hours must fly by, Jim. He can't help it. Barbara's just being nice here. She's trying to kind of repurpose another present, kind of play to the occasion here. And Jim, again, is just being sarcastic. Again, cutting to more Deirdre on screen. I mean, let's just focus on Deirdre a little bit here. Played by Anne Kirkbride. She first appeared in 1972, November 1972, and her final appearance was October 2014. Which is absolutely crazy. I remember her going to prison, right? This was in 1998, so I would have been 6, but maybe it's like one of my earliest memories. I do remember that. So Deirdre Rashid, as she wanted to time. I mean, we know her as Deirdre Barlow. I mean, I say we, I don't really watch the show anymore, but that's kind of what her main surname is, isn't it? But she's been Hunt, she's been Langton as well. She was jailed for fraud, and supposedly Tony Blair said he would be commanding his Home Secretary Jack Straw to investigate the issue, and William Hague, who was then leader of the Conservatives, announced that his party was also concerned about Deirdre's treatment, stating that, quote, the whole nation is deeply concerned about Deirdre, Conservatives as much as everyone else. I mean, one innocent time, right? I mean, the world is currently falling apart, Britain in particular. You could certainly not imagine Bojo having any opinions on Deirdre or anyone else. But yeah, glory days. We do a classic Royal Family slow pan across everyone, just seeing what they're doing here, with their polos. Jim has got them in his gums like Dracula fangs. Anthony's just crunching on them. We can also see his black eye very clearly. I often wonder if the quotes on screen are chosen, if there's some purpose, serendipity there, because, as I said, I'm a huge Sopranos fan, and whenever they watch a movie or a TV show in that, and you can hear it off screen, normally what a character's saying, you can posit that as representing some theme of the episode, or, a mirror of some narrative idea here. But it is interesting that it ends, and we hear, "Will you marry me?" is proposed on screen before the end of the show. That's basically how the episode of Horror ends, and of course, we have a wife and hubby-to-be in our midst as well on screen.
Something I've been thinking of doing for a while. What? Will you marry me?
Anthony, can I hear you crunching yours from here?
The Cora theme plays. What a classic theme. I've always loved the Coronation Street theme. It's kind of saccharine and maudlin. It kind of sounds like a saxophone being drowned, but there's something quite passionate and melancholic about it. I don't know why. Of all the UK soap themes, the Cora one's number one. And going from Deirdre's imprisonment to another event that defined the 21st century, here's Barbara.
Oh, did you see that programme last night about the Kennedy assassination?
Oh.
But of course, being Barbara, she doesn't really take it as most people would have.
That Jackie Kennedy. She had some lovely clothes.
The end of the majestic theme, underscoring the punchline beautifully. The inference here being famously, Jackie Bouvier stayed in her clothes, her bloodied clothes, after her husband was assassinated, and I think she said, "I want them to see what they've done to Jack," or something like that. And the fact for Barbara just to twist it, that she had lovely clothes, and she did, she's a very glamorous woman. Anyone seen that Natalie Portman film where she plays Jackie? It's not the best, but it does a good job of showing her wardrobe, nothing else. Of course, JFK, the 35th president of the US, assassinated on Friday, November 22nd, 1963, in Dallas, Texas, in Dealey Plaza. He was riding with his wife Jackie, Texas Governor John Connally, and Connally's wife Nellie, when he was fatally shot. This is from Wikipedia by former US Marine Lee Harvey Oswald. What do you think about the Kennedy assassination, dear Royle Ramble listeners? Because I don't know what I think about that, but that's for a different day. Anthony, inquisitive Anthony, knowledge gatherer Anthony, asks his dad, and the same way Norma will twist anything, be it about a Sunday roast or the assassination of the leader of the most powerful country in the world, brings it to himself.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
Where were you when Kennedy was shot? It's like everyone's supposed to remember, aren't they?
Kennedy dead? When? I don't know where the bloody hell I was, but wherever it was, there's a bloody good chance animation each was on.
Dave asked Barbara about this, and I love the insight. There's some soft classical music playing in the background as well.
Where were you, Barbara?
If this should happen to you,
before I met Jim, I was in the flicks with Charlie Rodgers. They actually interrupted the picture.
What was it?
Well, Kennedy had been shot.
No, what was the picture?
Well, it'd be difficult to see from the back row, wouldn't it?
You never liked Charlie, did you? He had a car.
He never. It was his dad's.
Well, you didn't have one.
Well, why didn't you bloody marry him then?
He had bushy eyebrows.
Oh, did he? Well, why the bloody hell didn't God give me bushy eyebrows?
What did Dave want to know what film it was? 1963. I guess it could have been a Bond or something, or it could have been anything. But, like we heard about Betty and the Joiner and stuff like this, any glimpse into the shared history of this family I find utterly fascinating. The way Jim and Barbara go through this as well. Jim's still quite red-hot jealous today. He's very pissed off about the idea of Charlie Rodgers. And Charlie Rodgers, what like an old-school name as well. I can see his bushy eyebrows now. Mad that they would have stopped the movie as well. Apparently that did happen, though. I mean, kind of makes sense, right? If something globally shattering like that went down, you could probably look away from your carry-on film or whatever. Interesting to think that Jim knew who Charlie was before they even met. So I guess they were in the same set or the same estate or, whatever. There's a line in the script that isn't said that just gives a little bit more context. So Denise says, which we're going to get to shortly, I wish you had married that Charlie bloke. He'd let us have the immersion on. And then Barbara says, he emigrated to Australia. And then Jim says he wouldn't need the immersion out there. That's why he went. Which, I guess makes sense why they cut that. It didn't really have much of a function in the script. If you kind of watch it, you can see it kind of cuts to Jim quite abruptly. So maybe they filmed that and just took that out and just felt that he didn't really do anything, which he didn't really. Denise wishes, as we say, that Barbara married Charlie. Clearly hasn't watched Back to the Future, doesn't really understand how that works. Jim then actually compliments Anthony here, but only because he saves him money. And they all pile on Anthony here. They all get their punches on about his odour.
Why don't you take a tip from your brother? He cost me nothing.
Who? B.O. Bill?
Smelly arse.
Hey, now I've just told you it's your dad's birthday. Too many arses in this house.
There's a great shot too as they're comboing of Jim laughing hard of his tummy bobbing. This really needs to be a reaction gif in my eyes. Denise pushes them all to get ready to go down the feathers, and Jim gets another barb into Cheryl, of course.
What time are we going down the feathers?
Well, as soon as you're ready.
Right, I'll nip home and make myself beautiful.
Oh, no, just coming for last orders then.
She doesn't even fight back. It's kind of sad. She just kind of takes it. She knows that Jim is just kind of joshing it, even though, it's barbed with a lot of truth, undeniably. Cheryl leaves. Denise kind of tries to fight it, but can't really help it. There's a mention of O'Reilly's bull here. Not really clear what that is. Couldn't find any mention of it, bar a quick one on the Royle Family Wiki, which didn't really explain anything. So again, email if you've got any context on that. Dave then switches over and starts talking about the boxing.
Hey, did you watch the boxing last night, Jim?
Oh, he got bloody made, didn't he?
I kept getting back up, though, didn't he, the silly ass? Should have stayed down, he'd have still got the money for it.
And I love the fact that whenever sport is mentioned on the show, they aren't specific at all. It's just this kind of milieu that they just tap into. So they have mentioned football, or they will mention football in the show, but they just talk about City. They don't talk about anything. Obviously, they're talking about Man City, but it could be many different teams locally, lower down the leagues or whatever. And boxing as well, just pronouns. It's interesting to me that they do that. I'm not quite sure why, considering that all the programmes in the show are so literal. I mean, goddamn, we watched a whole bit of Antiques Roadshow and Hugh Scully excursions, etc. last time, which leads into, from the boxing, finally we hear what happened with Anthony and the fight.
If I was in the ring with that big ugly pig, I'd have took a dive.
Yeah, so would I, no messy.
What? You won't last 2 minutes, the Milky Bar kid.
Listen, you should have seen me last night with the Bezic brothers.
Bezic
brothers? One's 12, the other's 14. Well, what's it in the sandpit, Anthony?
Look, one's 15 and the other's 14 and a half, actually.
One can't be 15 and the other 14 and a half, you big knobhead. That doesn't even add up.
Is that the gang, then? They're hardly the Cray twins, are they? What did they do at you with the rattle?
There are them two when they're together, all right?
Without revealing that the gang are the Bezic brothers. Now, is this a relation to Sandy Bezic? Could it be their mother or their sister or their aunt, perhaps? I mean, this is a show of subtle exposition, so they're not really likely to say, oh, it's Sandy's boys, because they all know that, they're not going to go into it. But it's an interesting connection that I never really realised before. The Milky Bar Kid is mentioned, of course, since 1961. used in TV advertising promoting the Milky Bar. Blonde, spectacle-wearing young child, usually dressed as a cowboy, whose catchphrase is "the Milky Bars are on me." And alongside the innocence of the Milky Bar kid, we get the menace of the Cray twins, of Ronnie and Reggie Cray, twin brothers, British criminals, perpetrators of organised crime in the East End in the 50s and 60s, who actually kind of became celebrities themselves. Photographed by David Bailey, interviewed on television. They were arrested in 68, convicted in 69, and each was sentenced to life imprisonment. Ronnie was committed to Broadmoor in 79 and remained there until his death in 95 from a heart attack. Reggie was released from prison on compassionate grounds in August 2000, and 8.5 weeks later died of bladder cancer. Jim tries to give a bit of fatherly advice here, but, I mean, one, it'd be causing a lot more trouble. I'm sure if you hit one Bezic brother on its own, the other's going to come down like a 10-ton of bricks. And also, he can't help bringing it back to us, of course.
Well, wait till they're on their own. To give them a bloody good hiding.
Well, they're never on their own, are they?
Why, they don't shit out the one arsehole, do they?
Oh, us again.
Barbara and Denise spark up some ciggies. We hear that Sheila Cowles is working in M&S. Apparently she looks gorgeous, but she don't really sound it.
Oh, I didn't tell you, did I? Oh. You know when I went to get your dad's jumper? Guess who's working in Larks?
Who?
Sheila Cowles.
Sheila?
Yeah, she's divorced now, you know. She's lost 4 stone. She's had her roots done and her ears pierced twice. She looks gorgeous.
Sheila Cowles, there's someone we'll keep an ear out for. I mean, it's going to take quite a few episodes until we get to the christening, and we meet Twiggy's bird, who complains about not being able to return a bit of clothing because it had ciggy burns in it. Maybe it was Sheila Cowles that turned her away there. M&S, of course, major British multinational retailer with headquarters in London, founded in 1884 by Michael Marks and Thomas Spencer in Leeds. It currently has 959 stores across the UK, including 615 that only sell food products. In 98, which was around the time of this episode being shown, the company became the first British retailer to make a pre-tax profit of over £1 billion, although apparently subsequently went into a sudden slump, which took the company and its stakeholders by surprise. Also taking us by surprise is Cheryl, who re-enters, and the script says Cheryl enters wearing too much makeup. She's made up, she's got too much eyeliner on, certainly, you know, the lippy, and it doesn't really do her any favours, but that's obviously the part of it, you know. She's pretty preened, which is a taster of how we're going to see Cheryl next in the show on the finale of season 1, the morning of the wedding episode. Everyone's complimenting her. Barbara, even like a mother, draws a little lock of her hair back admiringly.
Cheryl, you look absolutely gorgeous.
Well, I love the way you've done your eyes. What have you used?
It's boot zone number 7.
What's on the other eye?
Well, are we going out because it's thirsty work this bloody birthday, like?
Dad, I've not even got any lippy on.
Jim harks back to the horoscope, the young lady with an aura. Can it be? It's not Cheryl from next door, he says. Boots Own number 7, of course, is a brand of anti-aging cream, cosmetic products, skincare, that sort of stuff, launched in 1935. Dave again showing how Jim-like he is as well with What's on the Other Eye, which, you know, old line, but the old ones are the best, right? Jim pushes for them to leave. It's firstly work, this birthday lark. And another interesting line here that is missed out of the script. So Denise gets up to get her makeup bag, leaving a little gap between Dave and Barbara. And there's just, you know, a nice moment where Dave said, "Can I kip here tonight, Barbara? I don't want to drive when I'm bladdered." And she says, "Of course you can, love." And she like taps his knee lovingly just as Denise sits down in the gap. But here's from the script. So after Dave asks, "I don't want to drive when I'm bladdered," he says, "Yeah, I got caught last time, didn't I? Banned for a year, nightmare." Which, I don't like that idea of Dave like drunk driving and endangering other people and getting banned and stuff like that. And you feel like Jim and Barbara wouldn't like that either. That's a bad sign. That's someone who can't provide, you know, whereas Dave seems quite a, you know, hard-working, salt-of-the-earth sort of dude. So yeah, probably right to cut that out. But it is intriguing just following the script alongside it, and obviously I'll let you know all the rest of the ones that I find. But yeah, what do you think about that line? The fact that Dave said that he got banned from driving. I mean, we know that he has issues with his car, as we'll explore in the wallpapering episode in a few seasons' time. But yeah, the idea of him you know, being arrested and having his license taken away and stuff like that, I guess it's just not necessary. It's almost a little too grand for the show, isn't it? It's almost a little bit too exciting, I suppose, in some sort of macabre way. Talk of driving leads to lots of chummy joking here, with them all sort of ripping into each other, mostly on Anthony, but it's a great portrait of kind of a, you know, happy moment for the Royals.
I'm going to take up driving. You'll have to get me a little runaround.
I thought we were trying to keep death off the road.
Carlos, it can't be that hard. Dave drives.
Hey, I'm having a motorbike, me.
You don't want to get a motorbike. The death traps them.
Oh, man, don't be tight. Let him have one.
Denise, as we've said, has no money. All of her stuff from the catalogue is paid for by Dave without even asking for him. So therefore, the only way she can get Jim a drink is by asking Jim for money to get him a drink. And of course, she knows he's got the £5 because it was the £5 he was going to give Nana back for her birthday.
Dad, can you lend me a £5 to get you a drink?
I haven't got any money, love. You'll have to borrow it off your mother.
Well, what about the £5 Nana gave you?
I budgeted for that, you know. Do you know if you were any sharper, you'd cut your bloody self.
Jim says he'll get the first round in, which is quite surprising, but it is his birthday, I guess. Cheryl asks if she's in that round. There's a sweet moment between them as well.
Am I included in that round?
What do you drink?
Bacardi and Diet Coke, please.
Well, you're not strictly family, are you? Of course you are. Aura and all.
Anthony wants to come, and Jim says Ted won't mind. Ted, the landlord. I don't know if he gets mentioned again, but we've heard about Ted. We've heard about old Frank. We're building a little picture here of the Feathers. And Cheryl is such a good friend. Like, obviously she could be bitter that the jacket looks great on Denise and doesn't even fit her the size of the cock. But she actually says that she looks really lovely wearing it. She's so magnanimous, and, she's so sweet, really, Cheryl. She really is a lovely character. Denise, with the makeup on, looks really dusky-eyed. I mean, Carolyn Aherne just has that kind of Hollywood starlet look to her. Like, she's beautiful. She looks like kind of a bygone pin-up in certain terms. And as everyone's getting ready to leave, of course, the episode ends. We can't go with them. And we close with, for as progressive and iconoclastic as the royal family is, all the endings we've had so far, arguably other than the first episode, which ends with Jim popping his Bounty Law Gunsmoke sheriff guns into the mirror, has been like just a straight up sitcom joke. Like, episode 2 ending, Jim, do you fancy an early night? Oh, what's on the TV? Episode 3 ending with Anthony asking Jim if Norma has all the antiques that she was lying about, and him saying, has she my arse? And now this.
Get your coat on, Barb.
Taking me with you?
No, I'm going to turn the fire off. Of course I'm taking you. I wouldn't leave you here on my birthday, would I? Better bring your purse.
You half expect some sort of classic sitcom fanfare to come in, like John Sullivan's Ookie Street or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a very old school gag. It's a very kind of like, the dynamics of the husband and wife being exploited for comedic means. And it's great, and this is kind of more of a low-key episode, sort of similar to the second episode as well. But now as we push forward into the show, 5 is probably the most drama we're going to anticipate, and 6 is probably the most complex episode in terms of scenes, in terms of emotions, and again, episode 4 completely brilliant, and I can't wait to get into the rest as well. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, please tell a friend about the show. We are slowly growing, but we appreciate all the listeners we can get. We're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, wherever your RSS feed can take you. Please leave a review. Please leave a review on iTunes. It's greatly appreciated. We're slowly moving up the TV and film review charts in the UK and a few other places as well in the world, but mostly the UK. So, if you can just let people know about this, if you can just download the episodes on your friend's phone when they're not looking, that's greatly appreciated as well. Go back through the archive. Of course, get in touch with me. The email's in the description, royleramblepod@gmail.com. What did you think of Jim's birthday? Any thoughts on the episode, the performances? Any thoughts on my analysis? Do you have any insight into what O'Reilly's bull is? What types of polos do you like to suck on all day? Let us know, and I'll read them out at the start of the next episode. Follow us on Twitter as well. And we were back in 2 weeks' time on this recording to talk about Another Woman, which is where Denise and Dave return pissed from the Feathers, have a huge blowout argument, and it ends in a good old sing-song. So yeah, this has been Tom. Cheers as ever. Take it easy. Stay safe. Bye.